Now, before you click out of the video, you're either here because you support me, you like ranking videos, or you like Kanye West. But if you support me and you don't like Kanye West, I urge you to stay just so you can hear, just to educate yourself a little bit about Kanye's career and why he was so impactful, because obviously I'm going to give you some insight and a little bit of history about Kanye's career and how truly influential he was, but also ranking the albums. I did not include Cruel Summer, the Good Music compilation album with Kanye's Good Music label. Artists on that album include Big Sean, Pusha T, Sci-Hi the Prince, Tiana Taylor, John Legend, etc., etc. And I also didn't include Watch the Throne with Jay-Z and Kids See Ghosts with Kid Cudi because those are all compilation albums and not Kanye's solo work. So I'm doing Kanye's solo work just by himself, ranking his albums from worst to best. And I also want to note, just because an album is dead last doesn't mean it's bad. I truly believe every Kanye album is great. You guys know I love Kanye, and this is why I want to rank the albums. So like I said, just because the album is last doesn't mean it's bad or anything like that. I just think that the other albums were better. That's all, in terms of production, musical style, lyricism, impact, popularity, all that stuff, as always. So let's get right into these rankings. At number 9, I have Yeezus is King. Now, this probably doesn't come to as a surprise to many people. It came out last year, and it was Kanye's first gospel album. And Kanye West has always said he was a Christian, but now he has finally stopped doing secular music altogether, and he has said that he is just doing gospel music from 2019 and from the rest of the future. And as of right now, I truly believe he's going to stick with that because of his Sunday services, where every Sunday he puts on a Sunday service, and they pray to God, and they have these church services. So it's not bashing Kanye or anything like that. I do like, everything he's put out before better personally, but I still enjoyed the album. I think it sounded great. I just don't think people liked it as much because it did turn gospel, and it's not as big of an audience as any of his other albums. But with that being said, he still had some popular songs on there. Follow God was an amazing song. God Is, I loved. And then Use This Gospel with Pusha T, No Malice, and Kenny G. It was such a smooth album. It really is a gospel album, and that's what it is. That doesn't mean it's bad, but I just think overall, it was number 9 in the rankings. Coming in at number 8, I have the album Ye. This was his his last album previous to Yeezus is King, and this came out in 2018. This album featured heavily mental health topics, as well as some love topics, as well as being a father. This album I really enjoyed. It was only 7 songs, which is probably why it wasn't higher on the list. But that's okay, because what he gave us was also very good. I think there were, I would say like 5 out of the 7 were some heavy hitter songs, such as Yikes and All Mine featuring Valley. All Mine is just kind of a club hit. It's a fun song. Anyone can sing to it. It's a sing-along song. And it's just kind of mainstream Kanye. And then you have songs like Violent Crimes, which is featuring 070 Shake, and so does Ghost Town featuring 070 Shake. I think the vocals that 070 Shake puts on the album are amazing. Kid Cudi's on it, and Party Next Door is on it a couple times. So I think the featured and the background vocals adds a very luscious layer to the album, if that makes sense. It is kind of a mainstream Kanye album, and Kanye has never really dipped his toes into the mainstream because he made the mainstream always before, Jesus is King and Ye. He made the mainstream, and that's why he's so influential and impactful. And I feel with Ye, he didn't really forward the music industry like he does, which is a tall task to ask of someone because they've done it their whole lives. But this is kind of Kanye. He's still doing his own thing. Definitely had a lot of his own sounds for sure, especially working with Mike Dean on it, I know. And it was definitely very good. I just think he went a little more mainstream with it, which, like, what was already the mainstream, with some old flares of College Dropout Kanye. So Ye at number 8, still a great album. At number 7, and I can't believe I'm saying this album is number 7, but I have Yeezus. And the reason I have Yeezus at number 7 is because although it did change the music industry and influenced and impacted artists such as Travis Scott to be able to do their thing, because it was a very punky album, it was darker, and it was heavy hitting. But the reason I have it number 7 is just a couple songs kind of missed the mark for me, whereas the other albums ahead of it, like every song, pretty much every song hit the mark. But it was just so different, and it was electronic, and it was poppy, it was punky, it was rap, and it was all these different things. And at first, it didn't really get that good of scores from critics, I think. Maybe it got good scores from critics. I think just the general public wasn't feeling it as much as the critics and his big fans and things like that. I remember someone asked Chief Keef, who is on the album, what he thought of it, and he said the only song he liked was their song. So as you could tell, I think some artists from within the hip-hop industry didn't really mess with it, just because it was so different, it was so electronic, but it was dark and it was angry, and Kanye was doing his own thing, and that's what makes it a good album. Some notable features from Yeezus I wanted to note were Chief Keef and King Louie, which are some very interesting features, and Charlie Wilson was on it, but some very interesting features that he hadn't really worked with before. Some notable songs from Yeezus: Black Skinhead, Bound 2, and Blood on the Leaves. I've seen him perform this album before and tour, and it's just amazing. It really hypes up the crowd. A lot of fire and electricity in the air. So Yeezus at number 7. Coming in at number 6, I have Life of Pablo. I think Life of Pablo is Kanye West's most underrated album. This album actually consists of 20 songs, and I think one of the reasons why it's underrated is because of the whole title fiasco when it first came out. So Life of Pablo kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and people were anticipating this album so much because of the 3-year wait we had between Yeezus in 2013 and Life of Pablo in 2016. Recently, before that, Kanye had signed a deal with Jay-Z, buying a stake in Tidal, the streaming service, or something like that. And so the album was supposed to exclusively come out on Tidal, because of the contract or whatever. But Kanye wanted the album to come out on all streaming platforms, and I even remember I was upset because I had Spotify at the time and it was only on Tidal, so I couldn't listen to it. And Kanye just wanted to give the album to the people. He didn't care about it being exclusively on a streaming service. And that's a reason why I like Kanye so much. He just wants to give the people art and let the people, just fall in love with the art. And that's something I love about Kanye. So I think that kind of dampened the Life of Pablo name a little bit, but that album, it was good. I think it was a mixture between experimental and mainstream, and I think this was when Kanye started to get into the mainstream and get into gospel at the same time, because it's a very Christianity based album, but it's definitely very secular as well, especially with songs like Father Stretch My Hands, FML, No More Parties in LA, and things of that nature. Some notable features on the album are Ty Dolla $ign, Chris Brown, and Chance the Rapper. Something funny, I Love Kanye. Even that 46-second song is him talking about how he knows that the public loves Kanye but doesn't love Kanye, and they want the old Kanye but he's the new Kanye. And then it transitions into the song Waves, which is just an amazing song. So notable songs on there are Father Stretch My Hands, Waves, No More Parties in LA, I Love FML, Saint Pablo, and Highlights. I think Highlights is an amazing song. The Dream is on there, and I just think it's an overall great album. I think the production was still on top of his game, like still in his prime. And yeah, Life of Pablo at number 6. I think it's definitely his most underrated album. Coming in at number 5, I have 808s and Heartbreak, and this was his 4th studio album, coming out in 2008. And he took like 30 days or something in Hawaii, or 2 weeks, and he made this album, and it was very auto-tuney and electronic. And at first, this was the album where critics really didn't like it at first, but it truly did pave the way for other artists such as Kid Cudi and things like that, and even Drake. So it did influence and impact a whole generation of artists, and it really took about 5 to 10 years for people to really appreciate the album, because it really is about depression and heartbreak and loss and what comes with fame and all that stuff. And I think it was very relatable, and I think it hits you right in the heart, and I have good nostalgic of it because it was the first Kanye West CD I ever bought in '08. So I think 808s and Heartbreak has become a staple in Kanye's discography when it wasn't as first. And I think that's something that makes a great album, is something that ages well like wine over time. So at number 5, I have 808s and Heartbreak. Some notable features on it are Lil Wayne, Kid Cudi, and Young Jeezy and Mr. Hudson. Notable songs: Heartless, Love Lockdown, and amazing. Coming in at number 4, I have Late Registration, Kanye's sophomore album, which came out in 2005. Everyone knows that this album was very stringy and chorusy, and he had these big orchestras. It was very orchestral and had a lot of strings on it, and everyone knows that that was his album, which still had flares of College Dropout, which was his first album. But it's just overall is a great, I think at this point you could call it old school hip hop, which is kind of weird because when you think of old school, it's 80s and 90s, but it did have old school aspects to it. You know, you have features from Cameron, The Game, Jamie Foxx, and it just had some heavy hitting songs. A notable song, Gold Digger. You know, you have songs like that where Kanye even said himself that he didn't really like that song, but he knew it would pop off and be popular. So he made that song. Some other notable songs are Touch the Sky and Heard 'Em Say. You have, a great feature from Adam Levine on there, and you have some different sounds, and that one's really street music. That's Kanye's street album, and it's very good. He talks about hardships, love, loss, and everything in between on that album. So even the Diamonds from Sierra Leone remix with Jay-Z is so hot. So if you haven't listened to Late Registration, you have to. Definitely one of Kanye's best albums. And it was not a sophomore slump. A lot of artists have their sophomore slump, but Kanye West has never had that. So Late Registration at number 4. Coming in at number 3, I actually have College Dropout, and this may come as a surprise to some at number 3, but it was his first album in 2004, and this is the College Dropout cover right here, College Dropout bear, something that Kanye West is known for, the bear, just a classic cover, and as Kanye's first album, since he was always a producer and he always wanted to rap and people told him he couldn't, he finally got into the game, and I think that's why this was such a meaningful album. He even had a song called Through the Wire on it, where Kanye had gotten into a car accident and he broke his jaw and had his mouth wired shut, and he spit and rapped the song with his mouth wired shut in the studio, and that just makes it iconic. And one of my favorite Kanye West songs is on this album, and it's called Family Business, where he's just talking about his family, and it's just a great song. You don't hear that from rappers, when everyone, this was, back when there was all that street music and everything, and he just made it light and fluffy. Well, not fluffy, that was a weird word to use, but he just made it lighter, where he would speed up vocals and pitch them higher, and it was very soulful and it was very real, and that's why College Dropout was so good. You had features from Twista, Common, Jay-Z, and Jamie Foxx. All those features on College Dropout just fit perfectly. Notable songs were Slow Jams, Jesus Walks, and All Falls Down. And I truly think, what's that song, Get 'Em High? I truly think that this album has aged very well. Some of those songs on that album, I would believe if they came out today. So you can never look past College Dropout, one of the best hip hop albums of all time. So College Dropout, number 3. At number 4, I have Graduation. His third album still had the still had the bear on it, and the cover was amazing. The purple cover, the bear shooting out of the school, everything that the album stood for was incredible, kind of like a For the Dreamers album, quote unquote, I like to say, because a lot of the songs, they were hype and they made you believe in yourself and believe in your dreams, and that is something that I love so much in an artist. When an artist can inspire a large group of people on a large scale, that's something that I admire. And he was really experimenting with electronic sounds and a little more pop sounds on this album, like Stronger. So you had the Daft Punk samples and things of that nature. Even Steely Dan had a sample on it. So Graduation was an amazing album. It's really hard to rank these albums because they are all kind of different subgenres within hip hop. That's why some people say you can't rank the albums, but I just think it's just fun to do. So Graduation, number 2, some features from it were Lil Wayne, Chris Martin of Coldplay, and T-Pain. Notable songs, Stronger, Good Life, and Homecoming. I think he just had so many hits on it. You had Can't Tell Me Nothing. I Wonder was a good song. Everything I Am is a soulful song with featuring scratches from DJ Premier, which is amazing. So, it's got a little bit of mix with old school and modern and pop, and that album also holds up to this day. And and I love Graduation, so Graduation number 2. And coming in at number 1, it's undisputed, it's anonymous here, it's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You don't get better than My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye. All his performances, at the VMAs and in concerts during this time were incredible. He was on top of his game, and he got every person in the music industry to work on this album with him, from Drake to Nicki Minaj to Raekwon and more. The features, let me list them off: Nicki Minaj, Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Pusha T, RZA, Kid Cudi, Raekwon, and more were on this album, with notable songs Monster, All of the Lights, Power, Runaway. I mean, you could just list them, and even the unpopular songs were amazing, like Lost in the World, Hell of a Life, Blame Game with John Legend. So just all around, you don't beat the production on it. Runaway is one of the most simplistic songs ever, I think. That piano just ding, ding, ding is amazing, but he just makes it so complex somehow. He makes it so good, and just everything he does, bringing the whole music industry together to create an amazing album is just, it's incredible what he did. It's definitely on top of his game lyrical wise. I've never heard Kanye rap so well, except for maybe back on College Dropout and Late Registration. I still think lyrically he was better on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and I don't get the people that don't like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I'll never get it. They either just never gave it a chance, or I don't know, they're just crazy, because So Appalled and Monster have some of the best verses of all time. So Appalled, you have RZA, Sci-Hi the Prince, Pusha T, Jay-Z, Kanye. Monster, Nicki Minaj's verse on Monster is honestly one of the best features I've ever heard in my life. So, and even Gorgeous with Kid Cudi and Raekwon. I mean, the social issues they talk about and everything they talk about on that song, just absolutely amazing. And coming out of the gates with Dark Fantasy as track 1, just makes an amazing album. And ending with Lost in the World, you can't beat it. So go listen to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy if you've never heard it, because you are going to love it. I promise you that. And that's all I got as far as the rankings. I hope you enjoyed them. I'm going to list my favorite of Kanye's albums, starting from my least favorite to my favorite album. I'm going to link it in the description. But number 9, I have Jesus King, 8 Ye, 7 Late Registration, 6 Yeezus, 5 College Dropout, 4 Life of Pablo, 3 808s and Heartbreak, 2 Graduation, and 1 My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I know Late Registration is lower, but it was never really my favorite. I don't know why. Just wasn't. But I still love all the albums. I love every single one. Those are just my rankings. Once again, they're in the description below. And go stream my new EP, Night Owl. It's on all streaming platforms. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If so, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button. I always appreciate it. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EJSpark1. And as always, it's peace, love. I love s'mores. EJ out.